people who are called sharks or dragons, or we try to go with bulls or cows at one point. But we've landed on, I wish there was a drum roll here, but we've landed on aunties and uncles. And the person who, my team member who will remain anonymous, Nadeem, has decided to call them this. Personally, you can't see my face, but I think he has too many accountant friends who are known for their sense of humor, which is why this has become the standard, which I hope it's not. But we want your help to figure out, should we call them aunties and uncles? What do you guys think? Should there be a thumbs up for this or a thumbs down, or should we come up with a different name? Can you use the chat function now to tell us what you guys think? Okay, I like this. I like this already. Bilal's given a thumbs down. Thank you very much. I don't know how you guys feel about being called aunties and uncles, but you know the age-old proverb that says a thirsty man doesn't go to the well, or the other way around. A thirsty man goes to the well doesn't come to the thirsty man. Abdul Rahman Ali is changing that. He, in the context of electronic vehicles, is bringing charging stations to the electronic vehicles themselves, which is really incredible. Let's hear about the business itself from the little video that we have on here.
KiwiCharge is an autonomous charger that's able to navigate the parking lot and charge a vehicle wherever it's parked. So with one unit, we electrify the entire parking lot of the building. How does that sound?
That's great.
So it actually drives itself to the car, connects to the vehicle without a person being there. And what that allows us to do is charge vehicles during the day and at night. So you'll be asleep while your car is getting charged. Let me show you how it works.
Okay, let's try this out.
Let's come over here.
Okay.
We actually mapped out the parking lot of the building. So you can kind of see the parking lot over here.
Okay.
And we set up waypoints for the unit to follow. Let's have you do the honor.
What do you want me to do?
You're going to click play, and it's going to make its way to your car and start
I'm going to
charging.
play? Oh, whoa, whoa.
Yeah. So while it's making its way, let me tell you about what we do. So,
Okay.
For customers in the building,
Yeah.
they're able to connect to our app, and then
Right.
we actually connect to their vehicle. So we get to see when the battery is low, get to learn about the customer's driving habits. And what that allows us to do is plan out the charging session for the customer. So you don't have to request a charge or anything like that. It automatically tells you when your next charging session happens.
So I would just subscribe to your service,
That's exactly it.
tell you what parking spot I'm in.
So it's very seamless. So let's zoom into that. So this is our proof of concept.
Okay.
So this will live in your truck. So when you park your vehicle, you just have to remember to
Got it.
pull it out. Basically,
So if
nice
somebody
little-
see one of these hanging on a car, I know they're a Kiwi customer.
Exactly. Well, it's gonna look a lot smoother than that.
Right.
Better than that.
Okay.
And then you just have to connect one end.
Yeah.
So one end, you just have to remember to connect it to the car
Of course.
itself.
Yeah, just like I would charge anywhere else.
There you go.
Okay,
So now
here
they-
comes. So it's made its way all the way from, way over there. It's made its way over here.
Yeah.
And now it's saying, okay, I'm going to hook up.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
This is great.
It's going to connect to the vehicle and start charging the car. It's
No.
going to hook you up for sure. So, and the beauty about this is it can go to any floor, any parking spot, so it just makes it seamless.
Wow. Wow.
Okay, now it's
There we go. Yeah. It's going.
Yeah.
Blue is like pre-green.
There you go.
Oh, what?
It's able to navigate the parking lot and charge a vehicle wherever it's parked. So
Okay.
I don't know about Abdul Rahman, but I think this is the start of Nadeem's acting career. All right, Abdul Rahman, over to you. How did you come up with this idea? What are your plans? When are you meeting Elon next?
That's we'll see about the Elon conversation. Fingers crossed.
You have high hopes.
High hopes. We're hoping to revolutionize the space. There's a lot of gaps and problems in the space that we're hoping to solve with this form factor. So we're really trying to solve the the infrastructure gap. Happy to share a little bit about what we do in the company and what is the grand problem that we're solving. So, did you know that 1/3 of North Americans live in multi-tenant properties, buildings, and condos? And still, most can't charge at home. For buildings, it's quite expensive and time consuming. For EV owners, they're basically at the mercy of public chargers, which is a painful and unreliable process. And these charges are extremely underutilized. In fact, the industry average is about 20% utilization rate. That's largely a function of the fact that if you plug in a car is going to be there throughout the entire night until it has, even if it's fully charged early. So 20% utilization rate. That means 19 hours. Okay? Those chargers are just sitting there, idle, not charging a vehicle. And that's where KiwiCharge comes in. So about a year ago, a group of ex-VCs, serial entrepreneurs, robotics, and EV charging experts, we came together and we created KiwiCharge. So you got to see our proof of concept, early proof of concept, that was able to autonomously navigate the vehicle, connect to it, and begin charging the vehicle. So far, we're live in 3 buildings. We have 140 buildings as part of our wait list. We have provisional patents filed in the US. We recently got selected to do a pilot in Ontario. So there'll be an announcement coming out soon. And I feel like I'm missing something. Oh yeah, and we recently took Porsche's dealership. So they're excited to see how our solution could incorporate and help with their work. So while we're going into this journey, we're excited about what the future holds. And with your help, we can change the EV charging space. And maybe meet Elon.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you so much for sharing that. Over to you, judges. This is your time to shine, and just give him a bit of a hard time, I'd say.
Well, why don't I begin? First of all, congratulations on building that prototype. That's not an easy journey, and a lot of work went into that. So I'm not going to give you a hard time to begin with, because I'm actually going to say to you that I dreamt this up one day. I bought a condo maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and it was pre-construction, and they were trying to upsell me on EV. They're trying to build an electrical line to my parking spot, and they were going to upsell me like $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever it was to run that electrical line in advance. And I sat there and I was humming and hawing, like, the future is EV. Will it make the condo more desirable, et cetera, et cetera. And then I sat there and I thought, I'm like, there's no way that this will not be invented. Like, there's no way that someone's not going to be out there thinking, how do we service all these cars sitting in these parking lots, whether it's corporate buildings or apartment buildings, and as you mentioned, even dealerships, which I didn't really think a use case around. So great work, guys, finding a real problem and getting ahead of it. And I know that this is going to grow as the market grows significantly. My question to you is, what's proprietary about this technology? So what have you guys actually developed and built that is unique to anybody else, or is this all off the shelf technology?
Great question, Bilal. So,
Oh shoot,
That was such a tough question. He dropped out.
He took
Bilal,
off.
I thought you were not going to give him a hard time, and you start off with this. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Guy's gone. That was a water break, right?
Yeah. No, I had to build up some suspense.
Of course.
I'm back. So, Bilal, great question. So, for the proof of concept, we used a lot of off-the-shelf components for quick iteration. The proprietary cable, that is something that we had to net new create. But for our IP, it spans a few items. So, it's 7 items in total. One of them is an AI component. We don't know how likely that's to be granted, just given the AI space. So what I can talk about it, because AI is hard to patent these days, but we actually connected the get relevant data points like the state of charge. We get to learn about the customer's driving habits, and that allows us to determine which cars to charge and by how much to charge them. So, for example, in your case, when you mentioned a charger at your parking spot, you're probably going to use that for 1 or 2 hours if you're going to be using that daily. So that's extremely underutilized assets. We'll be able to move the charger and determine which to charge. Maybe you don't even need a full charge based on your driving habits. So that's how we maximize whatever energy is available in the building. The rest, the remaining 6, are all around hardware. and it's basically the glue that makes this a seamless experience for the customer. So, for example, one tech that is companies like ChargePoint would be interested in is how we're able to convert level 2 chargers to charge our unit at almost level 3 speeds. That basically have level 3 charging at level 2 economics. So it'll allow us to electrify the entire building, the entire parking lot of the building. So it's an example of some of the tech we're doing, and we think it's just thinking about the problem differently. Everyone is thinking fixed chargers. Approaching it from a different perspective just unlocked all these new opportunities and novel ways of addressing this problem.
Great, thank you.
Abdurrahman, thank you so much for presenting this. I think it's a brilliant idea, and it really is nice for services to come to you instead of you having to go to them. Having said that, I wonder, if Kiwi will become the blockbuster of electric charging, because so many disruptive technologies are coming up with quick battery swapping and other solutions, and there's the wide adoption of the traditional fossil fuel companies to replace their existing infrastructure with that. So are you gonna become obsolete, or do you see a niche for yourself to play in?
Yeah, we think we complement existing infrastructure very well.
Just as he was getting started.
Rama, that was a tough question. That was a really tough question. So I can see him running a point.
Okay, maybe we need some time to just think it through.
You've got to think it through. Call his co-founders, huddle on the question a little.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Abdurrahman, like now this is becoming a bit of a trend. We're questioning.
Yeah. No, the platform is buying me time, so thanks. In terms of so we one of the that we're doing is working with existing charging companies. So the for example, ChargePoint, one of the largest charging infrastructure providers in North America, they actually own some infrastructure in some locations. What we're able to do is retrofit our solution to those existing chargers. So a lot of times in buildings, they'll have them in visitor parking. So we'll be able to retrofit our solution to that existing infrastructure, essentially divert energy to our charger once our charger is there to charge, and then the entire parking lot of the building is electrified. So we think we can complement to existing infrastructure and increase the utilization rate of those chargers. Even with cities, so with the cities that we're in talks with, we can help, for example, commercial buildings during the daytime, and then our units can be moved and allocated to where they're needed. For example, if there's a concert or event, our units can come and convert any parking spot into an EV charging spot, like a pop-up parking spot. There's all these different opportunities that we're exploring, and one thing we recently learned is, so for a lot of these condos, they're part of a condo board, so you'll have 2 buildings or 3 buildings that are managed by the same property manager, same condo. Our unit can actually service multiple buildings, so you can set up the infrastructure in one building if they're able to come up with an agreement and have it service multiple buildings. So there are some unique opportunities in our form factor, and ultimately that our unit economics are superior versus fixed chargers. It helps pay for itself. So we might even cover the cost of the infrastructure and just collect the recurring revenue essentially going forward.
Good.
Very cool. Abdurrahman, I'll give you an easy one, so you don't have to drop off for this one.
I think it's beyond me.
Very cool technology. I think when I look at this from the outside, I see multiple technological challenges. There's a logistical network of delivering these units to different locations. There's the autonomous driving of the units, and then there's also this AI. The demand management of kind of cars to power supply, and the mobile part of it is definitely unique. What of these problems are you solving yourself versus using kind of sort of commoditized technology? Things like autonomous driving can suck up a lot of time and effort, and other people are pouring billions into solving those types of problems.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to be efficient and focus on our core competencies. The team is built robotic experts, mechanical and electrical engineering experts. Battery technology is one that we're definitely gonna offboard and partner. So we'll be able to leverage innovations and breakthroughs when it comes to battery technology, tap into that, and we can be a perfect shell where they can test out new or where we can be early adopters of new technologies. For example, some battery chemistries isn't appropriate for vehicles, but it's a perfect use case for us. But we are doing research around used batteries. So, second life batteries that are at 80% of they're a deal breaker for a vehicle, but perfectly suited for our use case. In fact, that Porsche was really interested in is that the battery that they furbished, maybe remove the module, instead of returning it back to the OEM at the dealership, they can actually put it in our unit, and then basically we can provide them the shell and the technology to house the battery. And in terms of the logistics, you bring up a good point. So what we do right now, there is a manual version of our solution where we deliver the charger to the customer and charge their vehicle overnight. That's how we create demand in buildings, and that's how we were able to go live as quickly as we have. We create demand. So for one of the buildings we're in, someone actually bought a Tesla because our unit is there and there's a charging solution available to them. So once we have about 7 EV owners in one building, or a few buildings that are part of the same, that's when we can actually look into putting our own charging infrastructure, have one of these units, and begin servicing the building over the long term.
How long have you been commercializing the technology for? How long
Yeah,
is it
so
in the market, and what is your go-to-market strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been about a year. So we incorporated 9th of last year, so just over a year now. And we built a manual version of our solution. And this, what you were seeing today, is the autonomous version of our solution. So the proof of concept for the autonomous. And in terms of our go-to-market strategy, it's really compelling. So we partner with property management companies. They get to advertise 100% of the parking lot is EV charging ready. And the best part, it doesn't cost them anything. So all we ask from them is to promote us to across their portfolio of buildings, and then to the residents of the building. So we get free marketing. They give us access to the parking lot. And the best part is they give us exclusivity. So if they want to install fixed chargers, they're able to. But if they ever consider like portable or autonomous charging solution, we are the exclusive provider in that case. So how we actually get into the building, track the EV adoption journey, and then when the building is ready, we can actually propose with them to build the infrastructure. Be ours.
Real quick follow-up on that. Why are these property managers saying no? Why is it not such a compelling opportunity? Why are they not all jumping onto this? Explain
Yeah, good question. We haven't seen yet. So in fact, we shouldn't say accidentally. We sent out marketing material to a property management company that is high margin, somewhat scalable. Can't compare it to software, of course, but essentially with one unit, it's able to do on average. We think it's going to be about 28 customers for the price of 7 chargers. So we can actually set up the infrastructure and then be able to capture 20 versus a traditional fixed charger. We'll be able to bring another unit in the property for the same infrastructure. So while one charger is charging the car, the other unit can be charging itself and go back and forth. So bringing that to almost 60. So unit economics is why we're kind of trying to approach it that way.
I see. And what are you doing about safeguarding your little robot assets, making sure drivers like me who don't really pay attention to moving objects don't hit it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's a common question we get. That and vandalism, and I think they fit under the same bucket. So what? So to leverage. So in the parking lot, it's one of those spaces where computer vision and autonomous is solved. Our unit is able to map out the space using LiDAR. We have different sensors that can help us reduce that risk. But the reality is, there is that probability of vandalism and, occasionally the unit getting hit. So we do factor that in our financials. And we do have insurance that covers if a car is damaged and whatnot. The team has high confidence. It's the robotics side of the team has high confidence in their ability to avoid vehicles and predict driver habits. I'm not as technical as they are. So we do see these units in warehouses, even in Walmart. One of the founders leads Walmart Canada's EV charging rollout, and they have these robots in the stores cleaning. So we have high confidence in the space and the technology to kind of help us address that. But just in case, we're factoring in a line item and insurance to protect us.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't know if we have any questions from the audience, but if there are, please feel free to use the chat function to come up with any of the questions that you want to throw at Abdurrahman or any one of our founders. I want to move
I'm not sure
on.
if we have more time, but if we do, I just one last question for me on unit economics. Just looking at the financials, I think between operating costs and admin costs, every customer costs you $60 to $70. How does that come down? Is it just a matter of scale? Are you investing in technology that brings this down?
Yeah, so technology is. So when we did the financials, we were focused mostly on new batteries. Used batteries, so we're just trying to make sure that there is a supply chain that can support us, and then we'll be able to incorporate in the financials. So, for example, last unit battery cost was around 11,000. When we bought a used Tesla battery, we were able to drop that to about $2,000. So it's a significant cost increase. This one example. The unit itself, once it's mass production, will be able to reduce those costs. So battery is the easiest driver. And as technology, we get to basically ride that battery technology curve. So as the technology improves, battery chemistry improves. And new chemistries that suit us will be able to benefit from. But there is, definitely different levers available to us. The top of mind one is battery.
Speaking of battery, we have a very quick question from the audience. What is the lifespan of the battery?
Yeah, great question. So for a new battery, it's about 10 to 15 years. We do use it in high output. So we use iron phosphate chemistries, lithium iron phosphate. So they're more resilient. They have a less likelihood of catching fire. They're very resilient. But the beauty about our solution is that we can use used batteries. So after 10 to 15 years, those batteries are at 80% of their capacity. So for cars, you're encouraged to replace them. But for our use case, we can actually wear them down. What that means to us is that our unit might have to just do double take, or we might have to come and charge the customer's vehicle earlier. We are connected to their car, so we know when their car is at 50%. We know exactly what their battery's at. And eventually, we're actually working on refining the predictive power of our models. Based on the customer's driving habit, are they going to be weekend? Can we just give them 20% charge and whatnot? So even as a battery deteriorates, they're still good. You might need to maybe replace a cell or two, but it's just the capacity is reduced. So you might have to just have maybe 2 units back and forth, charge the customer's vehicle earlier. So that's how we expand
Okay.
the life of the battery. Yeah.
You might also get asked from venture capital funds about recycling these batteries, because I think recycling
Yeah.
mechanism for these isn't very defined yet, particularly for lithium-ion batteries. I don't want to throw you a curveball, but I do think it's an important question for you to just
Yeah.
very quickly please answer.
Oh, absolutely. So in terms of recycling, right? Like how do we recycle the batteries? Is that the question?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So we don't have those capabilities in house, but what we are doing for the OEMs, for example, there are regulations where they're expected to track the life cycle of the battery, and what we do is we help them. We create an avenue for them to divert batteries away from landfills and expand the life cycle of the batteries. So that's one area that they're excited and interested about. So I'll use Porsche just because we're having conversations with them. Imagine if you buy a new Porsche vehicle, you don't have charging infrastructure at your house. They can bundle our service with your car sale to incentivize a car sale, and that could have a used battery from an older vehicle, for example. So we just expanded the life cycle of that battery, and but in terms of recycling it completely, we're not there yet. But we saw this with acid batteries, lead acid batteries in cars. You can recycle 90% of that, and that's because the research and investments have been put in. We think the same will happen with lithium ion batteries. We're not there yet, but we're
Okay.
trying to do our part to help reduce the
Okay.
environmental impact from that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Abdul Rahman. We're gonna get you off of that hot seat. I think we've had enough questions now. So I want to ask our funders a very important question. You have 60 seconds to decide. Do you want to enter a safe room with Abdul Rahman and fund his company? MERN members and audience members, you have the same question. There should be a form that appears on your window, on your center window at this point. You should be able to say whether you would want to fund KiwiCharge or not, and give us a little bit of feedback on the specific form. You have 60 seconds. I'll let you have some silence, and you can kind of deliberate what your thoughts are. Okay, I think we've had the 60-second time. All right, judges, what are your thoughts?
I can go first. So for Abdul Rahman, two quick points and then my verdict. Rama, great point about the tech evolving really quickly. That being said, I always think about a technology, a company where it stands today, and whether it's in a position to be able to evolve with the technology. And if they can lock their contracts down, if they can get into these buildings, and if they can, if they can commercialize the technology, then then they can certainly evolve the technology along with that. My one bit of advice for Abdul Rahman is you're raising adventure valuations, and I wonder if that's the right kind of capital for this kind of business. That's hyper growth capital. It's going to require really fast growth and scale. And this is a physical, real world product. It's not software. And so I wonder, that might be a dangerous path to go down. It's worth considering what kind of capital you need, what's the best kind of capital for this kind of a business, and how you can grow at least to a stage where you might be better positioned. That all being said, I'd love to get into a safe room. Is that what we're supposed to say? Like we're supposed to go into a safe room with you? It sounds kind of odd, but I'd love to go into a safe room with you and learn more. I think it's great. Your team is a rock star team. I think you've got some really solid and smart people around the table, and I'm certain you're going to figure this out. So I'm in.
I'll go next. I really appreciate the way you presented it. I loved the demo, even though your robot was a little wobbly, but I think it has a long way to go. I mean, not a long way to go, but I'm sure it'll end up looking much more sleek and very much robust for the environment that it's going to be in. We're interested in the space. We've invested already in technology that's within the electric vehicle space. And we would love to learn more about what you're doing and see if it might be a good fit. I think it might be a good venture play, but it all depends on the details of the unit economics and the business model. So we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rama. Thank you, Bilal. I'm looking forward to connecting. And yeah, we built that in 2 months, believe it or not. So it was a crazy sprint, but I hear your point.
Yeah. The wheels need to be a little refined.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Awesome. Great work to you and the team. It's a real world problem for sure. As an EV owner, it's definitely not seamless today. There's definitely opportunities to improve our charging infrastructure. I like the use of second life batteries. I think that's a great way to get more efficiency and really utilize things that are generally available at much better cost. It is an operationally heavy business, at least now, until you kind of change refine your model a bit. So it doesn't quite match my investment thesis. I'll probably sit this one out, but best of luck. It looks fantastic.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mohammed. I completely understand. We found opportunities to finance and reduce the capital burden. But to your point, yes, hardware is definitely hard, but we have some creative ideas. Love to share with the judges. Thank you. With the sharks.
I think we're both
Okay, great.
aunties.
You have two, aunties and uncles. I don't
Aunties
know.
and
Are we really
aunties.
going with this? I saw somebody from the audience member say they're cool with this, but I don't know. I really can't comment on this. You can't see my face, but if you could, you would know this. I'm not happy with this. Thank you so much, Abdul Rahman. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, judges, for your very fair and honest feedback. Next up, we have a really incredible founder who is thinking outside of the box. His venture is called Boxley Modular, or Boxley. Shayan Rashid is taking on a challenge that I think we hear about in our dinner conversations on the news all the time, which is about the affordability of housing. We're going to look at a video and see what the structure is all about and what the company is all about. And then after that, we'll hear a bit more from Shayan.
In Canada, owning a home is a cherished dream, yet for many, that dream is slipping away. With construction and home prices soaring, finding a place to call home has become nearly impossible for the average family. To help with this crisis, the Canadian government has pledged $7 billion to support the development of 3.2 million affordable and modular homes over the next 10 years. Introducing Boxley, a revolutionary modular home solution designed to meet this unprecedented demand. Each Boxley home is proudly crafted in Canada for Canadians, designed for quick deployment, which will deliver projects 50% faster than traditional construction. Boxley homes are high quality, sustainable, and affordable, costing 30% less than leading modular home competitors. With a leadership team boasting 30 years of experience and over $200 million in active development projects, Boxley is poised to become the next market leader in this innovative modular space. Join the revolution with Boxley and invest in a better tomorrow.
Great video.
That dream
Thank you
is...
so much for sharing that with us. Okay, over to you. Tell us more about your company and your journey. What's got you interested in this particular venture?
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. And I want to thank actually everyone from the Max team and the MERN team, Nadeem, Amr, Azhar, Rahmeen, Maha, everyone. You guys are doing a great job, so thank you so much. And for organizing today's event, and then also to our investors, Danish, Bilal, well, I think Danish will be here soon, Bilal, Rama, Mohammed. Thank you guys for allowing us to showcase our companies. So I'm Shian, I'm one of the founders of Boxley. And, you know, as I was putting this pitch together, I started reflecting on my journey, and a few milestones stood out. And the most meaningful ones actually weren't taking a leap from employment to entrepreneurship at 28, starting and scaling our business, or building a company that's not dependent on one individual and self-sustaining. Alhamdulillah, I'm grateful and thankful for all those opportunities and being able to do that. But the two most significant milestones in my life were, and I think other people will relate to this as well, paying off my OSAP student loan debt. That was a big one. And at the time, it was such a great feeling of relief. And most profoundly, when my wife and I were able to scrape together enough funds to buy our first house. That moment in itself filled me with a lot of pride and comfort, knowing that we had the security of a place to raise our children and start our lives. So for many young people these days, especially from our community, the comfort and safety net of an affordable place to live is now out of reach. That's why we founded our modular home company. We're committed to changing the landscape for these families and making sure the dream of home ownership is attainable. So I'm excited to present our vision for revolutionizing the construction industry through innovative modular housing solutions. Traditional construction methods these days are slow, costly, have supply chain issues, and environmentally unsustainable. Boxley offers a groundbreaking solution through a modular construction. Our approach, just like the building mentioned, reduces construction time and cost by up to 50%, so we can build high-quality homes quickly and efficiently. Now, the demand in Canada is pretty immense for affordable housing, with an estimated 5.8 million units needed by 2031 just to restore affordability. And our structures aren't necessarily container homes. They're not typical backyard tiny homes like you would see on HGTV, up late, with our spouses, looking at the newest renovations and options out there. These are structures that can be built up to 4 stories high with customized layouts and can be applied to various building types, not just single family homes. Streamlined assembly and strategic partnerships with suppliers and municipalities. We have secured key projects through our sister company, Rouge Summit Capital, and are in discussion with several municipalities to supply hundreds of affordable housing units. The magic of Boxley, or back to Boxley's magic, was inspired by Allah Yusuf, one of our co-founders, who's a visionary engineer and real estate genius. He brings extensive experience with over 150 completed real estate projects and over the last 10 years, and over 30 currently under development. He's the founder of an engineering consulting firm and a traditional construction company, which allows us to streamline our operations. His expertise in project management and in construction innovation is a significant asset to Boxley. So all has given us a significant competitive advantage by converting his existing real estate projects through Rouge Summit to traditional construction, from traditional construction into modular. So this allows us to fast track projects and display completed models so that interested customers such as the government can see our use cases. Our projects are going to showcase depth and our modular expertise. So at this time, we currently have 4 projects in development. We have a 9-unit multifamily in North Bay. For those of you in the States, These are in secondary and tertiary markets, not necessarily in the major cities. We have a 9-unit commercial retail project in Muskoka, a 23-unit stacked townhome project in Welland, and a 3-unit single-family detached project in Gravenhurst. So this year, Boxley, we're going to supply 55 units to Rouge Summit Capital with a pipeline of another 170 units next year, and at an average sales price of 140,000 per unit. We anticipate our revenues this year to be about 7 million and over 20 million in year 2. We expect strong profits in year 2, and there's going to be, but the significant opportunity really in this space is going to be supplying governments with affordable housing units. Other companies are going to have, in terms of building production capacity, what we've done is we've partnered and selected companies overseas and offshore suppliers, and we've been working with them over the last 2 years to ensure that we can meet and exceed the Canadian building standards. And our partners are able to deliver units within 12 weeks from order date, delivered and shipped and to our site within 12 weeks. The government's going to prefer, obviously, companies that are offering Canadian-made solutions. So in order to support our production needs and maintain our Canadian-made label, we purchased a facility in Milton, which will handle our manufacturing, and the majority of the funds that we're raising will be used to purchase equipment and machinery for our factory. We've also obtained approval through our other entities using the LMIA program. It's an immigration program to obtain workers or get immigration for workers to come in. So through the LMIA program, we've secured about a couple of hundred options for a couple of hundred workers to come in Canada, skilled workers, laborers of that sort, whenever necessary for scaling. So Boxley is uniquely positioned to deliver on this project, due to our innovative approach, strong market demand right now, our proven track record with our own projects, and with our strategic partnerships, and combined with our expertise at Rouge Capital, we're ensuring we're not just another player in the space, the leaders in housing innovation. In terms of our actual raise today, so we're raising $2 million with a pre-money valuation of $8 million and a post-money valuation of $10 million. This funding is going to accelerate our production capacity, enhance our our technology, and expand our market reach. We've already have committed 400K of this $2 million, so we have 1.6 left, just showcasing our existing network and confidence our investors have in us, and our vision and our ability to execute. And for the more traditional investor, our sister company, Rouge Summit Capital, has played a crucial role in our success. Our co-founders have contributed 50% equity into every project that we do, and the remaining funds come from an amazing group of investors. All and their team are incredible at unlocking value and been able to provide our investors with an attractive 15% annualized rate of return on the development projects. And investing directly into our development projects is a great opportunity for anyone looking for more traditional investment options. So thank you everyone for listening, and join us in revolutionizing the construction industry and making a lasting impact on housing affordability. Thanks everyone. And Rama, in the data room, I did put a number of items about the impact and how we're going to quantify it. So that is a significant part of what we do.
I saw that. Thank you very much.
No problem.
I'll jump in with a quick question. The go-to-market, it seems like it's kind of B to G to C or B to B to C. Is that what you plan on doing going forward, or is there any plan to go to consumers directly?
It's an option down the road. So there will be possibly 4 revenue sources. One would be our own construction projects, because we do have quite a strong pipeline. We could also, the biggest opportunity is going to be within providing to government. We will also be supplying to other builders, and then the option for like those backyard homes, or let's say single unit dwellings, whether it's in the let's say main suburban, main metropolitan areas, or off the grid areas and tertiary markets, that's also an opportunity. So 4 major areas that we can supply to, but for the first year and possibly going into the second year, we have more than enough projects to sustain ourselves.
And I think with generous government funding, I think that's sustainable. But do the unit economics make sense even if it wasn't government funded down the road?
Yeah, we'll be profitable in our first year, second year with our own projects. So our average sales price for the unit right now is about 140. Our cost is about 110. So we have a margin of about 30,000 per unit. We're going to be doing 55 units this year and about 70 to 100 in year two, just from our own projects. So we don't really need any other projects to be profitable. We're pretty strong in terms of our own pipeline. But again, there's an incredible opportunity here to expand and scale and really take advantage of some of these government contracts that are coming up.
Very good.
Is this kind of a hyper-local business? Because there's plenty of these homes that are being sold on Alibaba and Amazon. And of course, the tiny home movement in the US is thriving. So, but do you expect that no one's going to come in from those places into your own market?
I think there are a lot of different things going on in the space right now. There are some companies who are trying to develop locally, and their challenge is supply chain labor costs. So it's not necessarily going to be the companies who are doing everything locally that will win. It's going to be the companies who can secure the supply chain and scale quickly and take advantage of sort of new engineering techniques, new construction techniques, and pivot in terms of the process. So traditional construction, for single units, let's say tiny homes and these sort of pre-production units will be fine, and there's going to be a market for that. But for most construction development in the future, we're not going to see traditional on-site construction. We're going to see a lot more in factory production and then ship to site. So that's where the industry is headed. The real IP here, the real strong, opportunity here is working with the offshore suppliers and making sure that the building code and standards and all the materials being used are sufficient and will meet the requirements of local building codes, whether it's Ontario, whether that's a state building code, a municipal building code. Each unit and each sort of piece of the pie needs to be approved and it needs to meet the standards. So that's where a lot of this is going to be moved. It's going to be on the approval side, on the material production side, to ensure that everything is meeting the standards. And also, it's really interesting right now because if you look at Ontario, if you look at Canada, the government is fast tracking modular homes in the sense that they're creating steering committees on the municipal level to see how they can fast track the approvals for these projects. They are waiving development fees for their own affordable housing projects, and then they're looking at allowing for specific pre-approved designs to be implemented so that it can expedite the development process as well. So the government's doing a lot in the background, which is usually not the case, and the government is usually responsible for more red tape. So now, because of all the issues, and especially in Canada, the Trudeau government will want a lot produced and installed before their election next fall. So there's a big opportunity, a big push on that level to ensure that some of these projects get put into place, and there's movement on the affordable housing front.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions, just so I understand this. These modular units are being manufactured elsewhere. They're manufactured overseas. They're brought over, and then are they manufactured to build direct, or do you have a warehouse, and are you storing all of these homes so you can kind of build more quickly? And then my follow-on question to that is just, are you guys acting as developers, or are you guys acting as builders? Like, do you want to be, have your own land and kind of build the whole project? Or are you saying, hey, we will supply you, we can build we can be the construction layer of any development out there?
Yeah, so I'll take you through the process. When it comes to you'll see different examples of modular. In the US, there's a big company called Boxable, and they've tried to completely design and create let's call it a single unit within a factory and take it to the site, ship it, and dump it there, and it's installed and ready to go. Just do the servicing and connections, and you're ready to go. So that's a innovative approach where they're trying to completely build it in a factory and then put it on site in place. And then there's traditional construction where it's all on site. What we're doing is we're sort of in the middle. We are working with suppliers. We're doing engineering. Let's say there's a development project of 100 units in, let's call it Barrie, right? We'll do the regular traditional design process. We'll get the permits in place, and then our engineering team will work with our suppliers and design and develop what's going to be produced overseas. They're going to ship that over, and it's going to be anywhere from 50 to 70% complete. It's going to come to our warehouse. So we purchased a facility in Milton. We have a factory in Milton on Main Street, and it's going to be shipped to our factory, and our factory will. So this is where Canadian made is important. So we're going to fabricate a little bit more. We're going to add some finishing touches. We're going to do some last internal changes, and we're going to ship it to site, and then servicing will be done at site. So we have, when I say we have our own projects, yes, we have. Our team is very strong in land development, so we have projects that we own, and those projects are 55 units this year and 170 units next year. These are all projects that we own through our sister company, Rouge Summit. So we have enough in our pipeline through our own projects to support Boxley. So Boxley is the company that is going to be coordinating with our suppliers offshore. That's going to be doing the engineering, and then it's going to be selling to our projects and then to other builders as well, and then also to the government. So in the current phase, we'll be selling to our own projects, and then in subsequent step 2, we'll be selling to the government and other businesses. So yes, it's going to be a bit of both. I know it's a little bit advanced in terms of, or a little bit, there's a multi-step process here, but yeah, we're going to be doing both. And I know there was a second part of the question. Did I answer that?
Yeah, you did. It was about being the construction layer of the developers, and you explained.
Yeah. So basically, when the units arrive here, we'll do some additional fabrication and production in the factory. Then the units are going to be shipped to site. At site, we'll just do final finishing layers. The outside, the inside, the kitchen, installing the toilets and sink and all that. But it'll be, by the time it gets to site, it'll probably be 90 to 95% complete.
Right. And so I noticed in your video, there's no foundation, right? There's no built underground foundation you're building on these modular units. Is that correct? And why is that the case?
The building is more for commercial purposes, but if you look at any units, it's going to be still part of it will still be fairly traditional because you still have to service the land, right? You still have to connect to the utilities. You still have to get the plumbing and the electrical in place. So you'll have your base set up. You'll have your concrete foundations, and then the modular goes on top of it. So think about when you go to build a normal house. You have your framing people. You'll have your concrete people come in and build the base. You have framing people come in. You have electrical people come in. Your plumbers come in. Your drywallers come in, and your taping come in. So rather than having everyone on site, now a lot of that's going to be handled at the factory. So then you can just take it to site and have a lot of it pre-installed.
Will these units have basements though, or not?
Yeah, there's different options. So yeah, so the thing is,
you'd still excavate.
Yeah, you still do the servicing. You can still do basements. Each project is engineered on its own, so it's not like we're going and creating, let's say, one format, and we're going to produce 10,000 of those. No, these are very customizable. And it's more innovation in construction, where we're able to minimize the time required for construction and minimize what's required at site. So we're trying to automate, we're trying to minimize waste, we're trying to have everything done in a factory, or more so in a factory than on site, so that you can customize and you can basically rinse and repeat really quick.
I want to jump in on behalf of the audience here. What is the turnaround time for one unit, and what is the average size of the unit that you're selling for $140,000?
Yeah, so great questions. There's typically 1 or 2 bedroom units that we can complete, about 900 to 1,200 square feet. So that's a rough size. Yeah, we will. Our company, all of these units will be Terry on warranty, and then we're trying actually to make sure that we're 40% above efficiency when it comes to our units, so that we can get CMHC financing for any projects that we're going to make rental units. So that's super important for us as well. And turnaround time, so our suppliers are able to turn around in 8 weeks from the initial order to delivery. We're estimating it's going to be 4 months. We're just doubling the time that they're requiring us and giving us. And then a whole unit can be developed and built, probably half the time in normal construction. So let's say if it only takes 1 year to develop a property, a unit, we can probably develop it within, from order to actual completed unit, probably within 4 to 6 months. So it's a significant departure from the normal standards. It's quicker. You can reuse your capital quicker, so you don't need as much funds from investors from the bank. So you're able to recycle your capital a lot quicker. So it really helps with the development process. It helps to maximize profit, and it helps to just create better efficiencies.
Okay, it might be too early, but have you had any resales of these units, and have you seen what kind of valuation do you get for the resale?
The units are traditional, are still traditional in terms of what you're going to produce. You're not going to produce a lower quality product. So we have what we're doing is we're changing where the product is made, how it's made. It's not done on site; it's done more offshore and more at the factory. So your quality level and your efficiency is still going to be the exact same as you would for a traditional structure, whether it's commercial or residential.
Okay, thanks. Any more burning questions from the judges, or should we move on to the judgment? Okay, seeing as there are none, I want to give 60 seconds on the clock for our judges and also for our MERN members and our audience members. A form will pop up in front of you, just like for the last founder. I'm going to give you some silence, and okay, that's 60 seconds on the clock. What are your thoughts, guys? Are you about to enter a safe room or not?
I can go first. I will not. Mainly just my personal curiosity and interest is more in the 3D printing technology and seeing how that evolves to target these types of homes. So I'll set this one out as well.
Okay, I'll go next. Unfortunately, it's out of our investment thesis. I think it's a fantastic product and definitely relevant. And perhaps we can scratch our heads and find other investors that might be interested to support you.
Yeah. So, Cheyenne, my big challenge with this is how you're raising for this project. Like, I feel like this could be a good fundraise for like on a project by project basis or on a development basis, because there may be like clear timelines. Capital goes in, project gets developed, capital comes out, there's a return on your investment. I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit about how this is being raised. So if the capital goes into building your operations and your manufacturing or fabrication, how do we scale that up, and then ultimately how do investors get their capital out, and what does the timeline like that looks like? I don't think, maybe there's an IPO here, maybe there's a broader, bigger acquisition from a larger developer, but just scratching my head a little bit on that one. Happy to take this offline if you want to respond to those questions, but just based on today's conversation, this would also kind of fall a little bit outside of the type of investments we generally make. So I would pass, but happy to hear your response either offline or later at some point.
For sure. Okay, yeah, thank you, everyone. I appreciate everyone's time and insight. And yeah, Bilal, definitely we can connect offline. I can take you through some of the data in the, or some of the information in the data room. And yeah, we do expect to be profitable in the first year. And then we do have the development component for anyone who does want to invest in the more traditional investment sense with the LP or GP structure. We have that essentially a 15% return for the LPs. Yeah, so definitely happy to connect offline. And thank you, everyone, for allowing us to showcase and giving us the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for going over that pitch as well. Before we move on to the final founder, who's also really incredible, I also wanted to share with you a sneak peek for our next episode. Our next episode is going to be airing on August 17th, and we have 4 founders that we found that are quite incredible. There's one called Tabiat, there's DigiBiomics, OCare AI, and Actic AI. All 4 of them are health related, so please tune in on August 17th to listen to what they're saying. I also want to thank our incredible sponsor, CYA Live, who's in the background right now, also helping us run the show. This platform is being used for professional and entertainment purposes, and it just adds a layer to virtual interaction. If you want to learn more about it, please go to the website and check out more about it, the founder Semi. There's also going to be a form appearing in front of you, a link which says www.onemax.org/MERN. This is for all of you to be able to either recommend people who are founders or funders, because we're always looking to diversify people within our community. We're particularly looking more for women, for people from the Somali community, for people with disabilities, Ahmadi community, Ismaili community, more people who are underrepresented, but we know they are present in our community. So if you know people who could be good founders or good funders, or just people you think would enjoy watching the show, please feel free to share the link with them and add them to our group as well. Okay, so now I want to move on to our final founder, who is really incredible. Joining us right now is Shoaib Ahmed. Shoaib Ahmed's venture is called SCOOTY. I've actually used this, by the way, and I didn't know that this is one of our own homegrown entrepreneurs, so I thought this was really cool. If you want to escape, the problems of the TTC or rising fuel prices, or you just want to get out and feel the wind in your hair, you want to use this ride. Let's take a look at the video and learn a little bit more about the venture.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Shoaib Ahmed. I'm the founder and CEO of SCOOTY, and I wanted to show you a really cool product that we're developing in partnership with Metrolinx and Presto, where in the very near future, you'll be able to pay for your SCOOTY rides using this card. How you would do that is you would download the SCOOTY app, you would locate a scooter, and all you would do is you take out your Presto card, and you would tap on the vehicle. The scooter unlocks, the cable lock pops out, you kick it out of the kickstand, and then you go for a ride. And then once you're done your ride, you would come back to a designated parking zone. For example, in the city of Brampton, we have over 800 parking spots. You would put the cable lock back into this harness, and you would pull out your Presto card, and you would end your ride. And in the very near future, you can pay for your SCOOTY rides using Presto, and we're looking forward to building this here in Ontario. Thanks very much.
Well, assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present. My name is Shoaib. I'm the founder and CEO of SCOOTY. And for those of you who don't know what Presto is our transit lifeline. It's a card that we use as a transit card that we use to tap on and tap off any bus or train across 11 transit agencies in this province. And to give you a bit of a background, we started this company in 2019 frankly, because I hated my daily commute to public transit. I wanted to find a way to better access public transit, and I was in DC for work. On my last day of work, I wanted to see the Obama portraits at the Smithsonian Museum. Found a scooter that said free $10, download and ride. Of course, you're not going to say no to free $10. Got on the scooter, and it was almost a 20-minute ride to this museum. And as we were riding, all these alarm bells were going off in my head saying, why can't we do this in Ontario? So we came back with this idea, did not know, I'm not from the transportation industry. I used to work at a university called Toronto Metropolitan University in downtown Toronto. But what I understood from my role working in the university was access to public transit is always an issue. And so we started working with the provincial government in launching a policy to allow micromobility in Ontario. And alhamdulillah, they accepted, they approved. We also convinced one of the cities here called City of Brampton, which is about 25 minutes away from downtown Toronto, maybe in today's traffic, probably about 45 minutes away, to allow us to launch the first pilot in Ontario to launch micromobility during the pandemic crisis. We launched that pilot, huge success. At the same time, we understood players like Bird and Lime and others were trying to come into our markets. So we wanted to build, and Bilal Khan earlier on taught me this thing called moat. What is a moat? So we said, okay, one thing we knew really well was understanding our public transit system. And so we worked extremely hard in launching an exclusive agreement with Go Transit, which is the largest transit agency here in Ontario. And for those of you who are not from here, think Amtrak as an example. So there are Amtrak here. And so we have launched these vehicles at all Go stations, starting in the city of Brampton, seeing massive ridership to and from public transit, which is our thesis. And then we said, okay, we need to build a stronger moat. And just like our first presenter over here, we won a significant grant from the province of Ontario in the order of $1 million to work on Presto integration. Essentially, what people will be able to do is pay for their SCOOTY rides using Presto, which makes us part of the public transit ecosystem. And the province of Ontario recently launched this program called One Fare, where you tap once and you're not paying for other transit systems. So as soon as we are integrated with Presto, we become part of that. We can become part of Ontario's One Fare program. And so fast forward almost hitting 5 years this year, we're expanding to 2 additional cities by August, Markham and Barrie. We have a few more cities lined up next year. Our focus is connecting people to and from transit and also assisting cities in reducing their carbon emissions because of congestion. So far, I'm proud to say, and a lot of people said this would be difficult to do, we own 40% market share in the city of Brampton with 2 other extremely well-funded operators. And now we're growing, we're expanding. Go Transit has asked us to launch in other Go stations across the province. And we're slowly chipping away at it. We haven't raised much. We have relied mostly on grants and frankly, I often say this, SCOOTY was built by the community here. We got a check from Max pre-revenue, and just people wanting to find a way to connect people to public transit have stepped up and introduced us to the right folks in government and municipal governments, and we have been growing. And touch wood, alhamdulillah, so far so good. We're constantly chipping away at it. And this is some of, I think these numbers are incorrect. We're raising a total of $7 million for our growth and expansion, including the software development work that we're doing with Presto. And Mohammed, I must say, majority of our transactions are MasterCard and Visa. And so we see that on our data point. So it's really interesting. We have nailed a very niche market here and growing, and looking forward to expanding this across Ontario. So happy to take any questions.
Nice plug trying to convince Kamal, who has yet to fund any company on this episode. Okay, go ahead, guys.
I'd love to start and ask you, how does the ban of scooters in Paris affect your future prospects? I think they did that last year and cited danger as one of the issues.
Great question. So when this industry started, cities were giving open permits, which means any operator could, secure a permit from the city and just launch. And what happened in Paris was I think they had about 10 or 12 operators with 500, 1,000 plus units, and it was an absolute mess. What happens often is cities, and as we have seen in other pitches here, because of the growth in our cities here in Ontario and across Canada, infrastructure, public transit, necessities like housing and healthcare are always going to lag, and they're not going to be able to catch up with the immigration and the demands of our systems over here. So what Ontario cities and Canada is doing, by the way, being a first mover in this industry is not an advantage. So Canadian cities are saying, we don't want to see what's happening in Paris and San Fran and so on and so forth. We want to select companies that understand our specific pain points, and we want to work with people that we know. That the fact that we have Presto is a big check mark. The fact that we have Go Transit is a bigger check mark. And so that sort of waves off some of the inconsistencies and anxieties that cities have when they want to consider operators to launch here in Ontario and Canada. What we're also seeing is public transit is not able to keep up with the demand. And I'll give you an example. In one of the cities that we have launched, the city is now accepting or welcoming 25,000 newcomers and immigrants every single year. And that's just one city here. And that's a consistent problem in cities across Ontario and Canada. And, Boxley is a great example. They're trying to meet the demands of growth of Canada and our province. And so the governments are looking for quicker turnkey opportunities to satisfy that demand. So I hope that answered your question.
It does. I'm going to have a quick follow-up question, though. We see in LA a lot of accidents, especially for uninsured individuals that are riding their scooters, and then they're not able to cover the costs of the persons they're damaging. Cars have a regulation. You have to have insurance. But scooters don't. So what will you do as a major player in this industry to safeguard others, both financially and physically?
Fantastic question. So we do something called extreme geofencing in the cities that we operate in, where we geofence street by street. So what other operators do is they draw like a big rectangle on the city, and they say riding zone or no riding zone. And what those terms mean is municipalities set where people can and cannot ride. Our speeds are locked at 15 kilometers an hour in parks and trails, 20 kilometers an hour on roads that are 50 kilometers or less, and zero on roads that are over 60 kilometers. And we have had 0 casualties since launch. It is a bit annoying for the riders, but we are not taking a chance on safety and security for our customers. On the insurance side, we have to have very generous and extensive insurance capacity in order to operate in any city, for that matter. We do a ton of education on how people should ride and not ride. And because of our extreme geofencing policy and program, which is actively updated on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, alhamdulillah, I must say, knock on wood, so far so good, and no casualties. The other thing I must point is we are not aggressively growing intentionally, because when you aggressively grow, you're not taking into account rules and regulations and policies of municipalities. What you will say is, okay, we'll get to it, but let's launch and generate revenue. You can launch and generate revenue, but the cost of dealing with those issues in the long run is immense. And I'll give you a great example. Metrolinx has a zero tolerance policy. Our transit system will not take any risks or chances. It took us, I would say, about 3 years to close that agreement with Go Transit. And the regulatory, the safety checks, privacy, data sharing, the immense scrutiny that we had to go through, and we checked their boxes. So Metrolinx, I would say, is the highest in terms of safety and safety requirements. And then once you've hit that mark, it's a lot easier for cities to say, okay, if Metrolinx have done their due diligence and checked the boxes, they should be good to go as well.
Thank you for that.
I had a question. I think somebody in the chat was asking something similar. Is this a seasonal business? You know, are you finding riders in the winter? You know, just looking at kind of revenues in 23 versus 24, it seems like it slows down in the winter. And if it is seasonal, how do you control your operational expenses during the off season?
Great question. So we operate from April to end of November for now. The cities are going to be looking into doing 12 months operations, which I believe will be happening starting next year. To give you some context, in the city of Toronto, their bike share program runs 12 months, 365 days a year. It does not shut down. So I think you will see, naturally, you will see a decreased ridership in the winter months. But we get so many rides during the general season. It keeps our operations going, our operations expenses going for 12 months in the year, and we are extremely frugal. Immigrant mentality, trying to stretch our dollar as much as we can, extremely frugal, and we're not going to spend unless and until we need it. Now, Ontario is our current market, Canada is our current market, but we are looking at other 12 market opportunities. Fiji is an example. We're exploring that with the government of Fiji, some other states, and we're looking at Mexico as well. We'll get there, but I'm not saying you have to get there tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll chime in now. Before I get into anything, let me first say that I think of all the panelists, I've had the privilege of seeing SCOOTY when it was just an inception. It was an idea, and Shoaib kind of shared what he wanted to do. And I want to make maybe two observations. One is, first of all, congratulations, Shoaib. Like, I think the thing I told you at that time was like strap on. This is going to be hard as hell. Like, it's going to be very challenging. And I have to say that you've overcome obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, and I've been watching from a distance. And so the team has grit. You guys somehow figure out a way of getting to market despite all odds and all challenges. The second is congrats on the moat. I mean, that was the biggest challenge. It was like, how do you differentiate yourself? There's a lot of players coming into the market, and the Metrolinx kind of commute gives you guys a little bit of a monopoly. I mean, it gives you like a exclusivity on a ridership and a use case, which is great. I've been watching this space for a long time, and I saw Lime come out in the early days. I saw Andreessen write, billions of dollars went into this sector and massive valuations, and it all collapsed. So your point about not being first is well taken. First to market is well taken. And I think you guys are learning along the way. My question is scale. Like, how do you scale this thing? And I've always struggled with that because there's a lot of players in the market. Bird came in hot and heavy, and you see them all over the place. I've seen you guys out there. I see, I'm on the board at the University of Waterloo. When I go on campus there, I saw a bunch, and I looked more closely, and I was sad it wasn't you guys. It was some other company I hadn't heard about. But like, how do you scale, and how do you continue to maintain this moat to other geographies and other use cases?
Great question, Bilal, and thank you so much for the very kind comments. I guess I paid attention to your earlier advice as we were doing this. Scaling is a big factor for us and extremely important. So two things is what we're focusing on in terms of scaling. Integrating with Presto. That Presto integration is going to get us into cities far quicker than anything else. And I'll give you an example. A city, I can't name them yet because we're in almost close stages to launch. We're going to be launching in that city by March of next year. and it's very close to where you live, Bilal. They said, we want to work with SCOOTY because of two reasons: Go Transit and Presto. And we know that you understand our municipal problems. We are there with government relations. We are there at every single, meeting that these guys are at, and they know our story. And what's really interesting is Metrolinx has our data, and they share that in city presentations with these staff. So we are a natural fit for growth across Ontario because we hit a major key point and pain point for growing city, major tier one and tier two cities here. And so we know we're going to grow because we have that partnership, and they themselves have told us, Diaz and Metrolinx and Presto, that they want to work with SCOOTY because one, there's a culture fit, and two, that we understand their needs probably better than others. And I'll give you an example. I'm sure somebody's going to ask this question. Metrolinx did have a partnership with Uber and Lyft. This was about 2 years ago, and they walked away from that partnership. Two reasons: cultural differences, big time, Silicon Valley versus Canadian culture, and number two, data sharing. Data sharing was a big problem. And for those of you who don't know, Lime is an example that Bilal was mentioning. Lime is a company funded by Google. And Toronto, the city of Toronto, had a big breakup with one of Google's main project in the city of Toronto called Sidewalk Labs. And so when these companies come in and say, we're the 9,000-pound gorilla, you have to work with us because we have the money, we have this, we have that, and so on and so forth. A lot of Canadian cities have smartened up. Some might choose to work with them, I'm going to admit, but they're smartened up and they don't want to deal with that. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think a lot of the questions from the audience have been answered, but I think if you can explain a little bit more about what makes you capture the market share better than Neuron Mobility and Bird, and then also are you looking to push into cities like London that are pushing for bike lanes?
Great question. We did speak with the City of London. They are looking to upgrade their bylaws, which we think should be live by early next year. And a lot of cities are looking to expand bike lanes here in Ontario. In terms of how do we beat Bird and Neuron, we're actually competing with them in Brampton. And with those guys, we have 40% market share. And how we do that is because we know the cities better than anybody else because we live here. We raise our families here. Our staff is from here. We know the nuances. We know the trails. We know the schools. And so our local knowledge is a big in that city by March of next year. And it's very close to where you live, Bilal. They said, we want to work with SCOOTY because of two reasons: Go Transit and Presto. And we know that you understand our municipal problems. We are there with government relations. We are there at every single, meeting that these guys are at, and they know our story. And what's really interesting is Metrolinx has our data, and they share that in city presentations with these staff. So we are a natural fit for growth across Ontario because we hit a major key point and pain point for growing city, major tier one and tier two cities here. And so we know we're going to grow because we have that partnership, and they themselves have told us, Diaz and Metrolinx and Presto, that they want to work with SCOOTY because one, there's a culture fit, and two, that we understand their needs probably better than others. And I'll give you an example. I'm sure somebody's going to ask this question. Metrolinx did have a partnership with Uber and Lyft. This was about 2 years ago, and they walked away from that partnership. Two reasons: cultural differences, big time, Silicon Valley versus Canadian culture, and number two, data sharing. Data sharing was a big problem. And for those of you who don't know, Lime is an example that Bilal was mentioning. Lime is a company funded by Google. And Toronto, the city of Toronto, had a big breakup with one of Google's main project in the city of Toronto called Sidewalk Labs. And so when these companies come in and say, we're the 9,000-pound gorilla, you have to work with us because we have the money, we have this, we have that, and so on and so forth. A lot of Canadian cities have smartened up. Some might choose to work with them, I'm going to admit, but they're smartened up and they don't want to deal with that. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
I think a lot of the questions from the audience have been answered, but I think if you can explain a little bit more about what makes you capture the market share better than Neuron Mobility and Bird, and then also are you looking to push into cities like London that are pushing for bike lanes?
Great question. We did speak with the City of London. They are looking to upgrade their bylaws, which we think should be live by early next year. And a lot of cities are looking to expand bike lanes here in Ontario. In terms of how do we beat Bird and Neuron, we're actually competing with them in Brampton. And with those guys, we have 40% market share. And how we do that is because we know the cities better than anybody else because we live here. We raised our families here. Our staff is from here. We know the nuances. We know the streets. We know the parks. We know the trails. We know the schools. And so our local knowledge is a big, big advantage for us. And we are very engaged with the cities that we operate in. So it's a combination of operational excellence, a relationship with cities, and working with public transit. Pilots, plans outside of Canada, what will be your moat? So this Presto and public transit integration, this can be scaled to cities across Ontario, across the world. For example, this integration, the software integration that we're working on, where public transit can now accept payment systems through micromobility, we can take this to the Oyster system in the UK or in New York or in LA and so on and so forth, where we don't necessarily need to be the operators, but we're selling transit agencies this software key, if I may call it, where they can now start accepting micromobility payments through local operators. Heck, maybe Bird and Lime could be our customer. I don't know. Inshallah, let's see.
Yeah, inshallah, that sounds great. I want to move on to getting feedback from the judges and then audience members for your organization and for your enterprise. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. I'm going to put 60 seconds on the clock, and judges, you have the same time that the audience members have. Audience members, feel free to type in invest in the chat box if you are willing to invest in this company. And stay tuned. We still have a little bit more of the show to go, but please take a moment to fill out the feedback form and let us know what you think. Okay, I get the on is on, and I hope people have had a chance to reflect on this. Okay, judges, over to you. What are your thoughts? Who is entering the safe and right by Scooty? I wish I had the $1 million to give you, honestly. Yeah, inshallah, $1 million for me too.
I'm happy to kick things off here. So Shoaib, look, I'm government is a double-edged sword. I mean, it's so painful to get through to. It's so challenging, but if you crack that code, you get this exclusivity, right? You get this distribution channel that is yours, and it can pay off in perpetuity. So I'm really interested in learning more about how you crack that code, how it's replicable, and how you take that to new markets. I also think there's something you didn't go a lot into, but you touched on, which is to me very interesting. It's that integration layer between transit communities and infrastructure to commuters, and taking that around the world, and how do you monetize that layer and the data you can capture from that, and how it might inform governments and cities and all that stuff. So I think there's something interesting there I'd like to learn more about. So I'd love to spend more time. It's been a while since I've seen the insides of this, and I'd love to re-examine and see what's going on there.
Thank you, Bilal. Just on that note, we just recently did a report to Metrolinx on that data, and we visualized everything for them. And it's pretty fascinating. So happy to show you what those graphs look like.
Happy to jump in as well. It's an intriguing idea for me. I think I've spent a lot of time kind of, personally involved with the MTA in New York and the London transit system when we rolled out contactless, to see how that streamlined and increased ridership. I agree the first and last mile access is still an issue. I spend a lot of mental effort here in New Jersey trying to commute into New York, far more than I should. I feel the pain. I know it's a problem. I know you're starting hyper local, so I think I'd like to hear more about how you can take that focus, that local market knowledge, and actually scale it to other cities, other locales that I know have the same problem. So would like to learn more offline.
Mohammed, thank you for that. In fact, I'd also love to pick your brain specifically from a global payment standpoint, because right now we are receiving mentorship from the CEO of American Express Canada. We won a grant from them actually for SCOOTY, and I'm getting very specific advice from him, but I kind of want to expand a bit more to understand what that global payment infrastructure can look like and how that can tie into further with Presto. So looking forward to our chat.
Shaib, thank you so much for your conversation and the thoughtful answers that you gave. A lot of VC investments goes into character of the founders, and you definitely have that character. I loved what you said about the approaching things with an immigrant mentality and being frugal. We definitely appreciate that, and I appreciate that you've been thinking a lot about safety for people on the roads other than the riders. Would love to have a continued conversation to learn more, especially around the scalability issue and how might this translate into other markets. And thanks for doing the hard work.
Thank you, Rama, for your kind words. Looking forward to our chat.
Amazing. You got a yes from Kamal. So that's pretty great. And you have actually 3 yeses. I'm looking forward to what happens with your company as well, and hope you will share some feedback and some, post thoughts with us at a later time. Thank you so much, Shaib.
Thank you,
Thank you to all the judges.
And thank you for being a customer. Thank you for being a customer.
Yeah, for sure. I'll share pictures and video too.
Okay.
Okay, we still have a little bit more to go, a couple of minutes. Stay tuned with us. We love your feedback. Like I said before, we are looking to add more people to our community, more underrepresented people, women, people with disabilities, people who are just people who are not represented within our community very well. So you will see a form in front of you in the center window. And what I would like is for you to click on that form and give us a little bit more of your feedback. Okay, there it is. It also asks you, and we're about to poll you, if you had $1 million, like I don't, but if you had $1 million, which of these 3 founders would you want to give the $1 million to? And you can't split it, so it has to be given to only one of them. Who would it be given to? Okay, is everybody else, our people work on the polling? We'll tell you what the results are in a moment. I just want to go back to our August 17th episode. We have a really great lineup coming for you. These are all companies that are working on health and health informatics. We have Tabia, we have DigiBiomics, we have OCare AI and Actic AI. Please tune in on August 17th to listen to our next round of founders. Again, I also want to thank Sammy and CYA Live, who have been our generous sponsors, and they've really been working on this platform for quite a while. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that you guys don't get to see, but there's been a lot of hard work going into it. Thank you again, Sammy, for doing that for us. There's also a link coming up in front of you, which is www.1max movement.org/MERN. Please use that to nominate people who are investors, who are founders and funders, aunties and uncles. We're not sticking to that name. I think the feedback is in, but we'll figure this out in the next episode. So stay tuned for that. We'll find out if it really goes through or not, or if we come up with a different name. Please nominate more people. Share the link. We want to hear more from Muslim entrepreneurs. I think this is going to could be a great platform for people to pitch in their ideas. Maybe some of you who are in the audience also are going to be pitching your ideas next, and we'd love to hear from you. So we're just signing off now, and I would love for you to share the episode with people that, to spread the word. And thank you again for joining us on a Saturday morning. It went over a little while, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, see you again next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you.
Thank you.